Let's look at some more examples where we analyze an argument with a Venn diagram. So I have 3 examples here. They start at problem number 3 just because we had done 2 earlier. Premise 1 is if it is 4 p.m. or later, then I am not drinking black tea. Premise 2 is that I am currently drinking black tea. Remember, in this process of analyzing an argument, we're going to draw the premises in our picture. We are not going to draw the conclusion. So I'll wait to talk about the conclusion until I've drawn the premises. If it is 4 p.m. or later, that would be an inner set because it says if. Remember, if then talks about how one set is inside the other. So I would write 4 p.m. or later to describe the first set. And then it says, then I am not drinking black tea. So 4 p.m. or later would be inside the set of not drinking tea. All right, the next premise is I am currently drinking black tea. Now, for me to put in I am currently drinking black tea, that would be a lot of words, and I barely fit in not drinking tea. So often when we're talking about a specific situation, we'll use an X to represent that specific situation. So I'm going to say X represents me currently and what I'm currently doing. So what we have here is what I would be doing currently. I'm currently drinking black tea. We have 3 regions of this diagram, and I want to really emphasize those 3 regions for a moment. We have one region inside of the inner set, which represents 4 p.m. or later. If you're in that region, you are 4 p.m. or later. If you're outside, it's before 4 p.m. We have another region where we're outside of the 4 p.m. or later set, but we're inside the not drinking tea. So that would be times when I'm not drinking tea, but it is before 4 p.m. And then we have a third region, which is all the way outside the 2 sets. And that would be when I'm outside of the not drinking tea set, which means I am drinking tea. So one of the things to be aware of when you look at one set within another in a Venn diagram is be really careful about what each region means. You've got 3 regions here. What does each one mean? Well, to put the X in, which represents me currently, I need to put it in exactly where I am related to these 3 regions. And I want to put the X in anywhere that would be appropriate. Well, when we look at this situation, because I'm drinking tea, I can't be inside the not drinking tea circle. I have to be outside of it. So I would be, the X, or me currently, would have to be outside the tea drinking circle. So I'm going to get rid of the shading here because I was really just using the shading to emphasize what those 3 regions mean. But this picture right here that we currently have with 4 p.m. or later set inside the not drinking tea set, and then X, which represents me currently outside of both of those sets, would be the drawing for the 2 premises. Now, once we have the drawing, we're confident on it, then we can go to the conclusion. So now let's read the conclusion. It must be after 4 p.m. All right, well, let's see if that's guaranteed by the picture. If you think about where I am outside that X. I'm outside of the not drinking tea circle. I'm also, because I'm outside of the not drinking tea circle, I'm also outside of the circle that would represent 4 p.m. or later. If I'm outside the 4 p.m. or later circle, that means it must be before 4 p.m. So I am in a location that would represent before 4 p.m. So X is there. So this means because the conclusion has to be the case based on this picture, this means the conclusion and the argument is valid. So a valid argument means that the conclusion must result from the picture of the premises. Next example. It's important to look at multiple ones so that we get the idea. Premise 1, all yoga students in my gym attend PCC. All right, so I'm going to start with my rectangle, and then I'm going to draw one set inside the other, because remember, all represents one set inside the other. And the inner set is always what comes right after the all. So the inner set would be yoga students. And then the outside set would be the object of that sentence, the attends PCC. So yoga students are entirely within the attend PCC circle. Now we can go to the second premise. Today I spoke with a person at the gym who is not taking yoga. So once again, it would be hard to put all of that wording into the diagram. So I'm going to use an X to represent that specific person that I spoke with. So what we want to do is figure out where X would be in this picture. Well, what it says about the person is they're not taking yoga, so they're not a yoga student. So that means they have to be outside of the yoga student circle. To be outside, you could be directly outside, or you could be further outside. And what I mean by that is you could be outside the yoga student circle, but inside the attend PCC circle, or you could be all the way outside of both. So there are two regions that potentially this person could be in, two possible regions. So what does that mean in terms of analyzing this conclusion? Well, the person I spoke with is not attending PCC. Does this have to be the case, that the person was not attending PCC? Well, if you look at where X is, X may or may not, that person may or may not be inside the attend PCC circle. We don't know, may or may not. And if we don't know, that's when we say something is invalid. Because for the conclusion and the argument to be valid, the conclusion must absolutely follow. If it's not guaranteed to happen, which in this case we're not guaranteed the person I spoke with was not attending PCC, they may or may not have attended PCC, then we must say the conclusion is valid. You can only say it's valid if it must happen. Here we don't know, so we have to say invalid. Last example on this slide. Premise 1, if it is sunny, then it is windy. Here's an if-then statement again. Remember, if-then refers to having one set inside the other. So if refers to the inner set, then refers to the outer set. So I've got an inner set that represents sunny, and that sunny set is entirely within the set of windy. Premise 2 is also an if-then statement. In the previous examples we'd had, premise 2 had kind of been related to a specific person or a specific situation. Here, premise 2 is another if-then. So let's go ahead and think about another inner and outer circle. Now, the inner circle we've already drawn. It's windy. We already have windy drawn. The outer circle is that it's cold. So what that means is we need to surround the windy circle with another set, and it needs to be the cold set. So we've got sunny inside of windy from the first premise, windy inside of cold for the second premise. What we can now do is look at the conclusion and see if it has to be the case. The conclusion says if it's sunny, then it is cold. What that means is it's asking you, is sunny inside of cold? Remember, if then means one set is inside the other. So is sunny inside the set of cold? Well, looking at this, it is. We have sunny inside of the set of cold, totally inside. Now, if it wasn't entirely inside, then we would have to say that's invalid. But here we can very clearly see that it's entirely inside according to our picture. So this would be a valid conclusion.